We are back with a brand new edition of Training Camp Live 2023, presented by American Airlines. For the first time, we get Patrik "No C" Walker on the show from DallasCowboys.com. I'm Kyle Youmans, and we get a great look right here over the top of the Cowboys offense, working on some routes on air. We get a chance to look at these wide receivers, and of course, we get a chance for the first time to see 30-year-old Dak Prescott. I mean, happy birthday, Dak. He celebrates that 30th birthday today, and he doesn't look a day younger, right?
Absolutely. Dak Prescott.
Day older. I'll say the other way around. I don't want to insult the guy.
Absolutely. Dak Prescott turns 30 today, and he's entering another pivotal season for him. He's looking to bounce back and from the 15 interception season last year, and he talked a lot about tipped or 10, whatever you want to phrase it as, but nonetheless, the Cowboys are looking for fewer giveaways from their offense to complement the increased amount of takeaways they're getting from their defense.
A couple good balls there on this drill, trying to just roll back, take that step, and this is really a lot about footwork and timing with the wide receivers. Nothing crazy going on here, but for the most part, it's trying to get on the same page to avoid some of those interceptions.
Absolutely, and this is how you get on the same page, these types of drills. This is how quarterbacks build trust with every respective receiver so that when you're in a game situation, it becomes muscle memory. You know inherently if you can trust this guy going across the middle or going deep, whatever might be the call on that route tree, or if you check down and you look for the progression.
There's Turpin. He slipped on at least the initial plant. Then he got up, made the grab, and then slipped again. But he still held on to the football. First option we've gotten to see from Turpin. Here's a route from Jalen Moreno-Cropper, and he bobbled that one and let it drop. But a couple young wide receivers trying to make a spot into the rotation.
And great play there for Turpin, who is returning today after the birth of his daughter.
Oh.
So congratulations to Turpin, #GirlDad. And he's hitting the ground running, which is going to be key for him because when you talk about the addition of a guy like Deuce Vaughn and how the Cowboys are going to try to utilize Deuce Vaughn's versatility in the offense, obviously that drives a little bit in the lane of Turpin, so it's good to see Turpin getting out here and getting a hot start. Jalen Moreno-Cropper got off to a hot start day one with the Cowboys. Not so great on that drop, but that is not consistent for him. What is consistent is good hands, and that's why he's on the team in the first place. He does have a chance to kind of push this wide receiver room from wide receiver 4 downward as far as roster cuts are concerned.
Yeah, lots of eyes on him as an undrafted free agent out of Fresno State, kind of filling that role that Dennis Houston had last year as an undrafted rookie, coming in the wide receiver spot and playing really good football here in Oxnard. Now we've added the running backs and the tight ends to this drill. We've got a 2 tight end set here to the near side with Tony Pollard back behind as Dak Prescott will set up under center. This is a great look at the wide receivers and the running backs as Dak goes into that 5-step drop, and he'll loft it up for Michael Gallup, who is not there. Michael Gallup looking back at Dak Prescott and, again, getting on the same page. That's something that you've got to look for.
And I'll tell you what, Kyle, this is exactly what you want to see happen in camp versus happening in the game. You want to make sure that the receivers are understanding the communication and the route and the play calls so that those mistakes don't carry over when they become meaningful reps.
See what he has on this rep. Try it again, another 5-step drop, same route. Now it's Gallup, turning on the juice a little bit, and that one dropped in the bucket from Dak Prescott.
Much better, much more delicious route there from Michael Gallup. And then delicious, tasty, if you will. And Dak Prescott doing what Dak Prescott's been doing at the beginning in this first week of camp. He's really dropping some dimes. The other day, and day 2 of practice, I believe, we saw that deep ball from him to Brandin Cooks. So he's dropping them in the basket. The receivers, as long as they're on the same page with him, they're making the right plays. And you love to see that from Michael Gallup.
Now here's Prescott again, looking near side for Tolbert. Got that one over the top. You mentioned the hot start that Jalen Moreno-Cropper had to camp, but Jalen Tolbert's really been the talk of camp so far.
Tolbert is off to a scorching start, to say the least. Even with that interception that was credited to Nashawn Wright, if you look at the footage of that, Jalen Tolbert was right there being physical. He was high-pointing the ball with him. Nashawn's length kind of won that battle, but Jalen Tolbert has consistently done well thus far, and he's rolling it over from his great performance in minicamp.
Here goes Prescott again, trying the long ball this time. Far side to the rookie, Jalen Brooks. It's off his hands and incomplete. Good throw from Dak, and it looked like Brooks had trouble really looking for that football. He was looking directly into the sun, which is on the backside of our camera at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge out here in sunny, beautiful California. You're definitely going to get that glowing ball in the sky in your line of sight every once in a while. But, again, what's promising to see is yet another accurate deep ball from Dak Prescott. He's really been on the money out here in Oxnard this year.
Of course, a lot of critics might say they're throwing against nobody at the moment. It is 7-on-7, routes on air. But here you go, looking at CeeDee Lamb all the way on the goal line, and that one maybe a little underthrown, but Lamb able to adjust to it greatly and makes a nice grab.
And, for those people, Kyle, that say, well, they're not throwing against competition right now, this is where it begins. Before you can throw against someone, you got to go throw against no one. And you got to get the trust built, the chemistry built, the timing built with your receivers. Even with CeeDee Lamb, you saw Lamb and Dak had a couple of miscues last season. You want to get those out of the way now, and it's great to see them making a connection here in Oxnard.
This is all under center for Dak. Now a 3-step drop as he waits and dumps it off to Deuce Vaughn underneath. He was running back behind Big Sean McEwen. Of course, the Michigan product at tight end, going to year number 4 for McEwen, who was a part of that 2020 undrafted class.
And we talk about Deuce Vaughn. That's not the first time we've seen Deuce Vaughn in the backfield operating on a screen route. So earlier in the show, we talked about how the Cowboys are going to try to utilize Deuce Vaughn's versatility. Perfect example there.
When you see Dak Prescott commanding a huddle like this, and there's a lot of youth in that huddle, rookies, second-year guys, undrafted free agents, what does that tell you about Dak and the confidence that really Mike McCarthy has as a first-year play caller, at least in this organization, to say, hey, Dak, you command the huddle like this, even with young guys around? Does that say more about Dak, or does that say more about the youth that's around him?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Both.
Because primarily, you want to make sure that your franchise quarterback is a leader of men, and we know unequivocally that is the case with Dak Prescott. 2022 Walter Payton Man of the Year, and that is by no accident. He commands the entire locker room. His presence is there, and everyone wants to listen to him. He's like a magnet. And for these young guys to come in and be this coachable and be wide-eyed and open-eared, you want to see that from the guys.
Having a low throw to Tyron Johnson, who was a late addition this offseason. Johnson, one of the few wide receivers in this entire core that actually comes in with multiple touchdown grabs through his NFL career. He did so in 2020, coming up from the practice squad as a part of the Los Angeles Chargers. His first career reception, Patrick, was a 53-yard bomb from Justin Herbert. So Cowboys trying to find a little bit of something with Johnson.
So you're saying he's accustomed to making big plays in California.
He's made it happen.
And there you go.
A couple times before. Here's Cooper Rush looking for Durden down the sideline, and that one was caught easily by the West Florida undrafted free agent, and looks like that'll be the end of this drill. And now we are into 7-on-7, so no defensive or offensive linemen outside of the center, and you get to see this is just pure football. Mike McCarthy's talked about that all week long. You've got on the opposite side of the field some offensive, defensive line drills, but this is where the skills positions get to shine.
Absolutely, and this is one of the more fun parts of training camp practice to watch, Kyle. When you get to see the offense lining up against the defense in these drills, you get a good opportunity to see not only what the skill positions are doing offensively with Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush, and Will Grier, but some of these starters and then the younger guys on defense that are trying to make a name for themselves, notably Marquise Bell, who's going to get a ton of work in the absence of Donovan Wilson and Israel Mukuamu.
Tell me a little bit about Nashawn Wright. We can watch him on this rep as he's to the right now. He's going up against Michael Gallup. Got to get in front of Izzy Mukuamu, who's on the sideline currently. But tell me about the camp you've seen from him. Great coverage that time. You could see Dak Prescott look his direction as CeeDee Lamb nearly reeled in the one-handed grab, but Nashawn Wright had Gallup locked up there, and he's continuously built on good practices to start.
Absolutely, and Nashawn Wright is building off of an impressive outing in 2022, for lack of a better way to say it. When they lost Anthony Brown to a season-ending injury, Nashawn Wright, he stepped in, kind of took the role from Kelvin Joseph, and what you're seeing is him utilize his length, which is something Dan Quinn loves. On that particular rep, he was able to keep Gallup at bay with his length.
Here he is against Dennis Houston. Let's see what he's got there. Houston put a move on him. Throw into the end zone, and it's caught by Houston. Oh, excuse me. Dennis Houston was last year's number 3. That's Brandin Cooks. How dare I do that for Brandin Cooks in his first touchdown grab in practice. I'm going back to 2022. I'm still got to get used to number 3 out there.
That's how fast Cooks is that he ran us back in time just a little bit. We talk about Nashawn Wright and the length that he has and he puts on display, but kudos to Brandin Cooks. He's smaller, he's quicker, he's just a phenomenal route runner, and he kind of taught the young cornerback a lesson on that one.
No doubt about that. We were just talking up Nashawn Wright on what a great start to camp it has been, and then Brandin Cooks comes out there and puts a foot in the ground and then turns up the field afterwards.
He shows you why he was worth the 5th-round pick and probably more. But kudos to the Cowboys for being patient in that negotiation. They didn't have to give up the 2nd-round pick that was initially the conversation in October. Ultimately, a 5th-round pick, and look at what you get for the 5th-round pick: 6-time 1,000-yard receiver who is out here putting guys in a blender.
There's Cooper Rush throwing on the run to the rookie Jalen Brooks. Brooks has had a bit of a welcome to the NFL start to camp. I mean, he's dropped a couple of passes, but he's also worked into the fold quite a bit, and that's normal for rookies.
It is, and a lot of these rookies need to understand that the path to the roster is probably going to be through special teams. So what you want to do is make sure that you limit your mistakes or eliminate them completely when you're doing your offensive or defensive reps. But also keep in mind, John Bones Fossil is watching as well, and he's going to have a say ultimately on the special teams, and that might get you on the roster. Brooks might be one of those guys.
Right after you said John's Bones Fossil, I mean, he's back behind talking to Cooper Rush. He's on the mic. He's watching over all of these portions of practice.
Absolutely.
And it matters, too.
Most definitely. One of the more energetic coaches in the NFL, not just with the Cowboys.
John Fossil, special teams coordinator and de facto referee at the same time. Here's Cooper Rush back out of the shotgun. He's got Ronald Jones to his right. Quick drop there for Rush, and he overthrew his tailback. Tell me about Ronald Jones and what you expect out of the tailback this year.
From Ronald Jones, obviously a little bit of an uphill battle with who's behind him. We know what Tony Pollard brings to the table. Ronald Jones is more of a traditional running back. If there's anyone on this roster you look at and you ask yourself who's going to be kind of the power back to replace Zeke, I know the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy are clear in that they're not definitively trying to replace Zeke as much as they're trying to figure out the offense in that room. But that's what you'd get from Ronald Jones. But I'm thrilled to see that they're utilizing him more so as far as a receiver out of the backfield. The question is, can he prove that he is that in addition to being a power back?
Rush going to throw that one underneath far side. There's Tyron Johnson again. Second time we've seen him reel in a pass during training camp live. Fajoko's out there. Tolbert out there. You also have John Stevens out in the slot as a tight end,
who impressed greatly on day 2 of practice. John Stevens did. So in the absence of Luke Schoonmaker, who's on the non-football injury list for now, players like John Stevens Jr., players like Seth Green, Sean McEwen, they're going to have to take advantage of these opportunities behind Peyton Hendershot and Jake Ferguson, obviously Jake being the de facto TE1 right now.
All right, now going back into the huddle. Ball at the 11-yard line. They're going to mark it as 1st and 10 from the 11. About a half a yard in between the first down marker and, of course, the goal line. Deuce Vaughn now in the backfield. Dontario Drummond on the field. Rush looking. He'll look for Drummond back in the end zone, and it's overthrown. So that'll bring up 2nd down here in this scenario. Good coverage that time from Tyler Coyle. And then Kelvin Joseph underneath. There was really nowhere to throw that football.
And on that particular play, pre-snap, my eyes went directly to Kelvin Joseph. Why, Kyle? Because he was taking that rep from the nickel as opposed to the boundary. The Cowboys have been trying to get him some nickel work in OTAs and minicamp, and that's now rolled over to training camp. He's really going to have to make a name for himself in that nickel position with the addition of Stephon Gilmore.
Same
and
group
Eric
out
Scott.
there. Dennis Houston's out there. He's on the near side. Now Rush looking to the far side. He'll bring it back to his left. Throwing on the run. There's Houston with the grab. Taken down. We're in shells. We're not in pads yet. It was Eric Scott Jr. with a little extra physicality. That brings up 3rd down and long in this close to the 10-yard line situation.
Great catch by Dennis Houston, who was one of the camp stars in 2022. His chemistry with Dak Prescott was on display readily, and that's why he was on the active roster week 1.
I do want to look at this as we're waiting for this next play. If we can pan to the left and look over here back behind the dummies, look at the defense just getting ready. I mean, look at how many talented individuals are on this defensive line group, and they're all just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a ton of them. They were just sitting back behind the dummies as they were waiting for this play to finish and waiting for their turn to get after it.
Well, hey, if you're an opposing offensive coordinator and you're watching this footage, if so, thank you for tuning in. But if you're looking at this has to be intimidating to say the least. When you're talking about DeMarcus Lawrence, Jonathan Hankins, the addition of Mozzie Smith, Quentin Bohanna, a lot of these guys, Dante Fowler, Malik Hooker. I mean, this defense, Sam Williams, who I expect to have a breakout year. So it's fantastic to have this type of depth Dan Quinn can use to throw at teams.
Here we go. 3rd down and long. That one thrown to Deuce Vaughn. He caught it on the near side, but he didn't go very far. Good coverage, and it brings up 4th down. Nearly goal to go. They can reset the down marker at the 1-yard line.
And that
was at the 4.
And that was yet another screen play to Deuce Vaughn. Take the hint, ladies and gentlemen. Take the hint.
4th down. Got to score here if you're Cooper Rush. In the offense, he'll go to the far side, and he found Simi Fehoko. Did he get the ball in bounds? I think it's a 1st down either way. They're going to call it on the line judge. We're right behind the line judge. They're going to put it right at the goal line, but that's a 1st down.
It is a 1st down, to say the least, and that's good to see from Simi Fehoko. A lot of talk was being had from day one because of the tip drill that ended up in Eric Scott's interception, but Fehoko has bounced back phenomenally these last 2 practices.
Of course, here on the West Coast, no shortage of great swag, I should say, from Mickey Spagnola. He's got the Hawaiian shirt on behind us.
Yes.
Having some fun. He was on Training Camp Live yesterday if you haven't gotten a
in.
chance to look at it. Patrik Walker, Kyle Youmans wrapping things up on another edition, and we got to see a lot of high-tempo stuff today. Really good to see the offense get after it.
Absolutely, and even better still, you see these young guys, these young receivers really trying to make a name for themselves, and then you saw what Brandin Cooks can do to an opposing defensive back. So keep that in mind as well. Brandin Cooks was definitely worth the price of admission.
Brandin Cooks, not Dennis Houston. My apologies one more time to Mr. Cooks. I'm still in 2022. I'll get there. It's training camp for us media types too. Okay?
That said, Dennis Houston did make good for you.
He did. He
with
made
that
a grab.
catch on the sideline.
We're okay.
So,
we're going to continue building here on Training Camp Live. We'll be back on Monday with more Training Camp Live presented by American Airlines. For Patrik Walker, for Alex Lilly behind the camera, I'm Kyle Youmans. We'll see you next week.